DIRTTRAXTV is sponsored by Polaris, think outside. Can-Am, follow your path. Yamaha's proven off-road side-by-sides and ATVs, realize your adventure. Team MSC, when you just gotta have the best. Honda Power Sports, power your dreams, whatever the terrain. Arctic Cat, share our passion.
There's a manufacturer that we've been working with for a while now who really has, I don't know, upped their game over the past few years, changed a lot about who they are and what they do, while at the same time,
kind of staying the same.
Keeping the basics, which are, you know, their hallmarks of who
moving forward, but staying the same. And obviously, we are talking about Honda. So one of the things to know about Honda is that they have quite a different lineup of models in Canada versus the US. And in fact, some of the models that are the same actually have different names. You really do need to check the website to make sure what model is available and isn't.
So let's talk about ATVs first. And right at the very base, USA only, the Rubicon is still available, which is a 229cc, 2x4, smaller size platform. Awesome little ATV. Not available in Canada anymore, but it is a great product in the US.
Interestingly, they even offered in two versions.
Yes.
Full manual and electric shift manual. And I thought that was really interesting because it starts at $4,850 in the US, so under $5,000. Yeah, for a Honda ATV that, while small, is still a real ATV.
And it'll be here until the next ice age.
That's right.
Moving on, the Rancher 420, which I mean really is a bread and butter for Honda. This is a dang reliable, long-lasting. I mean, you see Ranchers all the time, everywhere.
And if somebody says Honda ATV, in your mind you automatically picture a Rancher. Everybody does.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's still that same straight axle rear end in Canada. In the US, you can actually get a model that has IRS on it, which increases the suspension travel. So it's 6.7 inches of travel on the non-IRS, and then 7.3 and 8.5 inch on IRS models, as well as a slightly larger braking surface, and ground clearance does go up a couple of inches.
You get manual, 5-speed manual, auto clutch, or DCT options. You get 2 and 4x4 options, so there's a 2-wheel drive only and a 4x4. And then you do get EPS on the highest trim level, and they start at $62.49, which again, that's a pretty good entry-level price.
When we move up from this level of Rancher, we go to the Foreman. And the Foreman is just really, I mean, yes, it's slightly different, but the big difference here is you go from 420 to 520 cc's. So you get the bigger engine.
And this is, the Foreman was their latest update, really.
And it looks really good. It's a good looking ATV.
The Rubicon was their latest update, but I remember when the Foreman Rubicon 4x4 EPS came out, and it was like, this is a really good ATV. This thing rides good and it handles good.
Now it's interesting, Canada only has the base non-EPS model. In the USA, you can get both the 4x4 and then the 4x4 EPS model. So it's a great, still a swing arm rear suspension. Something that changes it from the Rancher is that you go up 1 inch in tire diameter. You go to a 25-inch tire from a 24, which does actually give it, I know 1 inch doesn't seem like a lot, but it does make that ATV seem a little bit bigger.
Yeah, for sure.
Next up, we've got the Foreman Rubicon in the USA and the Rubicon in Canada. Now, they're all the
same vehicles.
All the same thing. It's just in the USA, they call it the Foreman Rubicon.
This model gets shiftable 4x4 and EPS standard on all models.
It's still that same 520 as you find in the Foreman across the entire lineup, except for the highest one. Obviously, we'll talk about that at the end. But that 520 motor is reliable and strong. You can get it in the DCT dual clutch transmission, IRS EPS. You can get it in a 520 Deluxe, and then obviously there's the Rubicon 700 that we'll talk about after.
Yeah, interestingly, the Foreman Rubicon in the US, that is Honda's first model that only comes as an IRS. They don't offer any solid rear axles. That ATV is a solid contender in the 550 class, 500, 550 class, and it's pretty impressive. The base in the US here is $97.50, so under 10 grand for the base model that, again, has 4x4 and EPS standard on the base model. That's a really good price. Now, the last most confusing model, I think,
used to be a Rincon, I believe.
Used to be a Rincon, now it's called a Rubicon. They just call it the Rubicon 4x4.
Yeah.
That's the official name.
It's a 700.
Well, it's a 675.
Yes.
But they call it a 700. Independent rear suspension. This is the one with a 3-speed car style automatic transmission with a locking torque converter.
Yeah, hydraulic torque converter, 3-speed.
Yep.
And you can actually find this engine in one of the Pioneers as well, which is kind of interesting. So it's not just a standalone, it is used elsewhere.
There's two more ATVs we'll just quickly mention, and that is the TRX250X and the TRX90X for the kids.
Yes. Good ATVs, awesome reliability. If you want something that's going to be around forever, the Honda is the way to go.
This portion of Dirt Tracks TV has been brought to you by MBRP Performance Exhaust, built for the victory lap.
So moving on from there, obviously we go to side-by-sides, and it is the Pioneer lineup, which is very deep in the USA. There's a lot of options here. In Canada, there's a few less options, but we're gonna walk through all of the differences. And right at the, I'm not gonna say at the bottom, because honestly, it's one of the most fun little side-by-sides to ride, is the Pioneer 520. And this thing is 50 inches wide. Let's keep that in mind, like 50-inch wide, rec utility, has a box on it. This is a cool little side-by-side, and it's got that 520, it is gear on gear. So you're talking about the only 2-seat gear on gear, like rec utility, sport utility, whatever you want to call that, side-by-side in the entire industry.
And I mean, it's a great deal. It's 11,000 bucks. It only comes in one model. This one, they've updated. It has a box. It's really nice looking, actually. It's very sporty looking. So the Pioneer 520 is where you start, but honestly, it's a great side-by-side.
Okay, so when we move up from here, we've got the 700 Pioneer. Comes in a base, a deluxe, and a forest model. Power steering on everything except the base model. And then in 704, which is the 2-row, you also get base, deluxe, and forest. Power steering on all but the base, and you got 7.9 inches of travel in the front, 9.1 inches out back. It does have that same Rubicon 700 hydraulic torque converter, 3-speed transmission. So this is where that engine is repeated.
Yeah. So the Pioneer 700 is sort of your entry level into full size side-by-sides. From there, you move up to the top of the line rec utility side-by-sides from Honda, and those are obviously the Pioneer 1000s.
Yeah, we start at the 1000, which comes right from the factory with 2,500 pounds towing and a 1,000-pound box capacity. Now, you can get it in deluxe, forest, and trail models. Trail gets you a 4,500-pound winch. 6-speed DCT transmission is in these vehicles, and you get 10.6 inches of travel up front, 10 inches in the rear, and it does come with 27-inch tires, which makes it look a little bit beefier. It has a stance to it, and you look and you go, oh, this is a nice looking
side-by-side. It's a nice looking side-by-side. Now, the next one you move up to, and this is where this lineup gets kind of confusing, there's a 2-seat.
Yeah.
Then you move up to the 5-seat, which is the same basic front clip of the vehicle with that 2-seat convertible rear. But what was weird about it is that one has a bench seat in the front. The other one has 2 bucket seats in the front. So there's a big difference there between those two models, not just the rear seats. There's actually something different up front.
And the 1005 is probably my Honda of choice when it comes to the Pioneers, because having those 2 convertible rear seats, you can still get the box to tilt, which is really impressive.
That's the feature right there. Nobody else is doing that.
No, and so the convertible rear seats that fold down into the bed and still give you a usable bed, sure, people will say, well, yeah, but there's some cracks and stuff, and if I put dirt in there, it's like, so put a small tarp in before you do it. Put one of the Honda bed liners in before you throw stuff in there.
If you got a need for 5 seats, but you don't always have a need for 5 seats, this is your choice. And again, Honda reliability, Honda fuel clutch transmission in this one.
Yeah.
So then we come to the Pioneer 1000 6-seater, and this is one of the newer models for Honda. It is basically exactly what it sounds. It's basically for those guys who need to get a bunch of people in and out of a job site, really, is what it's for.
With a box capacity.
With a box, or if you're going into a hunt camp a couple times a year and you need to take all your buddies with all your gear, this is what it's for. So now we finally get to the fun part of Honda's. I mean, there's a lot of fun stuff in Honda's lineup, but this is just for fun. There's no work being done here.
Nope.
And that is the Talon line. And this one also has a lot of models and a lot of options in those models.
Pretty deep. In Canada, just be aware that there's very limited Talon models, but you still can get one. And then in the US, we're going to go through all of the different variations here, which there is everything from 2-seat to 4-seat. There's everything from 64 to 68 inch wide, 3-link rear suspension, 4-link rear suspension, and different travel options. One thing to keep in mind is that every single option of Talon in the United States, at least, is available in the base model which traditionally comes with like a nice, I believe, show-a-shock package. And then it's also available in the Fox Live Valve Premium version for all of them. You just need to check the specs on the website to figure out exactly what it is and go in and see one at your dealership.
Now we move on to the Talon R.
Yes.
And
Yep.
normally when you add the letter, it means a higher package. With Honda, it's the opposite.
Yep.
But this is 68 inches wide, 68 and a half inches wide, but it's also a different rear suspension. So this
Yep.
is not the same platform as the X models.
It's a 4-link rear end.
Yeah, and there's other companies doing this, but
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, I did not expect this from Honda. I figured Honda would stick with the X models and just go with it forever. To come up with a whole other sport side-by-side platform is pretty progressive for Honda.
In the R, we go from the RS to the R. Again, it's a shock option. And then if you want to go to the full 4-seat, there is only one option here, which is the 1000 R4 Fox Live Valve.
Right.
So if you want 4 people in the R, 68 inches wide, 20 inches of suspension out back, 17 up front.
One thing I want to talk about and just quickly cover is that, like you said, Honda gets a lot of flack for not coming out with stuff year after year after year, and not like a new ATV. Honda doesn't use its customers for R&D. They don't sell you a vehicle that's not 100% sorted out.
And I like what you said. They don't use their customers for R&D.
Yeah.
And I think that, like you said, the hallmark here and the thing to take away is if you want rock solid reliability, you want that ATV to be there. How many people have we seen who have 60,000 miles?
We haven't seen anybody with any other brand that has 60,000 miles, or the one guy had 120,000 kilometers, which is like almost
120,000 kilometers on an ATV, same block. He rebuilt a lot of the suspension components and a whole bunch of other parts and pieces, but this vehicle is still going.
Yeah.
I mean, show me some other brands that have done that. You're not going to find them. Honda is reliable as the day is long, and if you want that reliability, you buy a Honda.
This portion of Dirt Tracks TV has been brought to you by Suzuki. It's not a quad unless it's a King Quad.
The way I see it, there are two kinds of people who buy mud ATVs. There are the kind who only ride in the mud and need a specific kind of vehicle to do it, and the kind who only ride trails, but whose trails often have very muddy sections that can be challenging. This type of rider wants the mud-specific upgrades like rad relocates, snorkels, high-clearance suspension components, and winches, but they don't necessarily need the outrageously aggressive dedicated mud tires. And this is where our story begins today. As manufacturers continue to push their mud ATVs to be more singularly focused on riding in the mud, they inevitably become less attractive to that second kind of buyer. Which is why I think CFMOTO's new CFORCE 1000 MV and the way it is spec'd is exactly what the ATV industry needs right now. It has all the mud-specific goodies both types of riders are looking for, but has a few specs that make it far better on the trail than anything else in the mud ATV class. Let's start by looking at the CFMOTO CFORCE 1000 just in general. All models are based on the 2-up long wheelbase chassis. They all feature a 963cc single overhead cam V-twin engine that outputs a claimed 84 horsepower. As far as I'm concerned, this engine is absolutely fantastic. It's got loads of bottom end that's perfect for tackling anything that's thrown in its way. It also features multiple throttle modes, so you can tailor the throttle curve and power output to any situation, and power is transferred through CFMOTO's in-house designed OmniDrive CVT. Electronically managed engine braking, tri-mode DPS, LED lighting, and a full-color TFT display are standard across all CFORCE 1000 models. The lower arms up front are arched, and out back you'll find a trailing arm suspension design. Travel for the 1000 MV is listed as 7.3 up front and 9.3 out back. Interestingly, that's 1.5 inches less travel up front, but 0.5 inches more travel in the rear than the other CFORCE 1000 models, and I am not sure why this is. The 1000 MV gets the standard suite of mud-specific upgrades, starting with its rad being relocated to the front rack. The setup here is nice looking and it's sturdy. The plastic guard over the rad just snaps in place and it can be removed for easier cleaning. I like that the louvers in it will grab air and force it over the rad when you're moving. The rad itself can also be tipped forward to access your coolant reservoir, your fuses, and to clean the back of the rad itself. CVT and engine air intake has been cleanly integrated into this little snorkel setup right here that sits right in front of your handlebars. Now when I look at it, the holes look pretty small to me, but it definitely doesn't seem to affect performance. Like pretty much all CFMOTO off-road vehicles, a winch comes standard, but on the MV it's been moved up higher for easier access when you're stuck. I also like the heavy-duty tow hooks on either side of the winch, which should make attaching someone else's winch a lot quicker if you're in big trouble. Between the bars, you're going to find a mud strap. In the footwells, you're going to find aggressive raised steel foot platforms, and underneath the vehicle, you'll find a full set of HDPE skid plates to help you slide over those hidden obstacles in the mud. The hallmark of any mud ATV is its tire and wheel package, and this is where I think CFMOTO has targeted a typically overlooked section of the market with the 1000 MV. Instead of ridiculously aggressive mud tires that are great in the mud but pretty terrible everywhere else, the 1000 MV is spec'd with a 14-inch beadlock wheel wrapped in a 30-inch CST Wild Fang tire that features an aggressive tread that will be good in the mud, but not so aggressive to be terrible on the trail. In fact, these tires are surprisingly good on the trail, and when you combine them with this set of compression and rebound adjustable piggyback shocks, you get an ATV that can be set up to ride great on the trail, then be stiffened up to be more capable in the mud. CFMOTO is the only company offering adjustable shocks on their mud-focused ATV models, and everyone here at Dirt Trax thinks it's about dang time. I see CFMOTO's CFORCE 1000 MV as a bit of a unicorn in the ATV industry. Instead of building a mud-specific ATV with a singular focus, they built an ATV that is highly capable in the mud, but can also appeal to the gnarly trail riding crowd. If you do spend all your time in the mud and want even more traction, you could just swap to your favorite set of mud tires. But for the rest of us who want to ride technical trails that include, but are not limited to, deep mud, the 1000 MV is pretty much the perfect choice. And in Canada, it's still backed by CFMOTO's 5-year limited warranty.
DIRTTRAXTV has been sponsored by Yamaha, revs your heart. Honda, life is better on a Honda. ITP, innovation, traction, performance. Fast HD, roam fearlessly. Kawasaki, let the good times roll.
When it comes to sport side-by-sides, bigger is better seems to be the new catchphrase. Everybody is pushing the boundaries of pure sport side-by-side performance, and it is awesome to watch. One company I can honestly say I didn't expect to be playing right at the top of the sport side-by-side performance game is Segway. The Villain is a great sport side-by-side, but it's really not breaking any performance records. The Super Villain, on the other hand, is a completely different story. It appears that Segway wasn't messing around when they told their engineers, build us one of the most powerful side-by-sides in the industry. Let's be clear right from the start. The Super Villain is not just a more powerful villain. It's an entirely new platform, and at first glance it might look like a villain with a facelift. But when you see it in person, you realize it's intimidatingly huge in every way, dwarfing the villain in both size and obviously horsepower. But this is necessary because behind the driver and passenger seats, you're going to find a 2-liter, 4-cylinder, direct-injected, turbocharged monster of an engine that's pumping out 235 horsepower. And it's mated to a 7-speed automotive transmission with both auto and paddle shift modes. A powertrain this size is just going to require a big chassis to bolt it to, and a chassis that big is obviously going to need bigger parts bolted to it. So yeah, it is pretty big. Big enough that the 32-inch tires it has actually look properly proportioned, but it's not bad big. In fact, it's pretty awesome, especially when you start looking at the suspension. Up front, you get 20 inches of travel from some of the beefiest A-arms in the business. The hubs are stout and 3-piston brakes have no trouble slowing the Super Villain down. Out back, a 4-link trailing arm setup with 21 inches of travel includes massive trailing arms and huge diameter links. Drive shafts are equally as beefy. When we talk about the interior of the Super Villain, I can honestly say that it is just as impressive inside as it is on the outside. Its D-shaped steering wheel looks racy, but it's the massive touchscreen display in the center console and the wide, full-color gauge pod that tilts with the steering wheel that looks so automotive and take the interior to another level. Overall, both inside and outside, the Super Villain is striking in its appearance, impressive in its technology integration, and confidence-inspiring in its finish quality. But what's it like to drive? That's what we all want to know, right? Well, its 2-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine runs extremely smooth, but builds power very quickly. It makes great noises from the turbo, which displays very little lag. The transmission works Good. Paddle shifters are quick, but the auto mode, despite being a learning transmission, seems to get confused about what gear I want when I want it. But this is common with so many auto shift geared transmissions in the side-by-side industry. The 3 different throttle modes are tuned very well. They have appropriate throttle curves and power outputs for their intended riding scenarios. The seating position is excellent and very comfortable. The steering wheel feels great when you're pushing it hard in the corners, and the brakes are definitely strong. Handling is also very impressive. At 72 inches wide, it's stable in the corners, and the well-tuned sway bars do a great job of keeping the chassis level. The shocks are absolutely massive. They are fully high and low speed compression and rebound adjustable. They have the biggest remote reservoirs I think I've ever seen, and they feature dual rate springs. They're not brand name, but they do work great. Ruts, whoops, sharp-edged hits are all handled with composure, and landing big jumps, even to flat, reveals the suspension setup's excellent anti-bottoming characteristics. As far as suspension and ride quality are concerned, the Super Villain is as good as any of its competition. My final thoughts on Segway Super Villain are that it's an impressive, ultra-high performance, pure sport side-by-side that can easily hold its own in its class. It offers high-end finish quality, robust chassis and suspension components, extreme horsepower, and visually impressive, yet highly functional technology. Truthfully, I'm just not sure what else a person could ask for.
Make sure to subscribe and comment below for real interaction with the Dirt Tracks crew.